Hello, good evening. I am coming to you from the Leo new moon solar eclipse. And unfortunately, I'm here in California where I live, where we cannot see the eclipse. So I'm living vicariously through all of the beautiful photos and videos that people share. And it's in moments like that that you say, thank goodness the internet exists. That's a really cool thing and a very amazing tool that we have that connects us with other parts of the world to see things that we wouldn't otherwise be able to see. So feeling grateful for that, but wishing I could see it because it looks pretty epic. But feeling it. I came off astrology class today. So I am in astrology school led by Jules Ferrari. She is my phenomenal teacher and I've been following her work for years, and it just, always really resonated. Her interpretations are beautiful, but getting to actually enter into the process of learning the art and science of astrology and all the technicalities and all of the nebulous intuitive pieces. It's just been really fun. So I am very much enjoying that, but so I'm in level 2 and currently we're talking about like transits and progressions, and progressions specifically are something that I've never gone near. I have heard the term, but that is about where my knowledge stopped. I had just no idea about this whole beautiful corner of astrology, and I'm quite literally, one day into my relationship with progressions, and I'm already feeling just so excited, like I could one day see myself specializing in progressions. I don't know. That's a pretty bold statement for however 12 hours or whatever it's been. But I guess the Leo energy in the air is making me feel bold. So very exciting things are just kind of swirling around the astrology bucket. I'm also taking a course on oceanography, and I unfortunately failed my quiz for that this week. So there's deeper studying there with, again, the technicalities. I only missed it by a hair, but I need to drill down next week. But point being is, it was really cool when I was in the astronomy in the oceanography course. I just kept seeing and thinking about all these parallels to astrology and to the elements, seeing truly how, again, whether something is manifested physically in our world through, let's say, like the materialist lens of, the salinity of the ocean. This section we were talking about temperature, density, and salinity, and measuring those, and there are just so many parallels to our emotional or energetic makeup. And you could look at that through a psychological lens, you could look at that through an astrological lens, but really seeing how so many of like the interplay dynamics between the forces of water and air, earth and fire, like heat, solar radiation, what element cools the other, which one like traps heat or emits heat, and how the transference from one to another occurs and how it affects other things. Like, it just, all it did, I guess, was create like an overlay in my brain where I was seeing connections with astrology. And I think for, I don't know, just whatever reason, I really always resonate with the elemental part of astrology. Maybe just kind of like near the top as far as like my interests go. I guess now add progressions into that. But yeah, I really love the elemental piece. I think that there's just, I mean, again, even if you're just purely approaching it from like a metaphorical stance, I think there's just so much value in saying that we innately all, you know, our energy works differently. What's sustainable to us is different person to person. How we move through life, how we grieve, how we let go of things, how we create ideas, how we are in relationship, how we are at work. You know, there is something to be said of, I think, all of us relating to, on some degree, oh, that person's really grounded. They're really fiery and confident and bold. Oh, like they're very flighty and kind of all over the place, and maybe very scattered, but also maybe very above it all and like lofty, and, you know, maybe they're an intellectual savant, and or maybe they're just a live and let live, go with the flow kind of person. Like, you know, maybe they're very deep, very emotional, very present, very romantic. I think, yeah, these, again, archetypal qualities that, whether someone is into astrology or not, like, you can still resonate with, and you can still see people falling into those buckets. And the cool thing with a full natal chart is seeing how we are all made up of different quantities of all of those. So again, I think one of the things triggering in my brain when I was reading about the oceanography stuff was just seeing how, okay, I guess like the density of the water being very dependent on the amount of salinity in the water. So therefore, again, adding a compound like, you know, salt, how that would change, like whether the water will freeze or what the freezing point is. And yeah, just the temperature of the water, like so many elements, again, interact with one another in different ways based off the ratio. And knowing if we all have different ratios of fire, earth, air, and water, then therefore, again, our unique approach to this world, or our unique needs, our unique, just style or manner, or what's gonna fill me up will be very different from you or the next person. And also, again, just the combination of saying, if you are trying to work harmoniously with someone, if you are trying to co-parent with someone, if you are friends with someone, like any way that we are interacting with others, I think, yeah, again, astrology is so deep and so vast and has so many technical, nuanced elements or areas if you want to dig into it. But even if you just wanted to stay on the surface with the 4 elements, there's so much value there, and there's so much juice there. And I think there's so much benefit to just saying, how can I understand myself and understand you, so that we can blend harmoniously and we can achieve like whatever common shared goal we want to achieve. So those were some of my thoughts coming off this week of learning. And I think my brain has just felt like, I shared this on the class, like the call with my class today. But yeah, my brain has just felt like a furnace that just needs constant fuel of like information to learn and absorb. I just feel like I have always been a lifelong learner type. I just am usually always enrolled in some sort of course or reading a book or listening to an educational podcast. Like every day I need to drip feed something into my brain. But yeah, I think really seeing the like the fire is amped up, like the level of intensity has been cranked up, and it feels very, very good to be feeding it good quality content, I suppose. Not that there's anything wrong with any content out there to each their own. But for me personally, I know that this is akin to feeding my brain like a high quality, nourishing meal, because I'm not only just absorbing information, but it's also like cracking open all of the new windows and doors that I didn't even know existed. And the synapses are firing. And yeah, like my curiosity is just, it has taken flight and it feels really, really good. So, that is kind of an update on where I have, I suppose, been at the last week, what's been up in my mind and my life. But yeah, I guess the other thing I maybe wanted to share or touch on here, because it felt very relevant to the Leo themes in the air, and also just, yeah, personally, I suppose I could blame it on the fact that I have a Scorpio moon in the first house. First house is ruled by Aries. First house is very much tied to our identity and like wearing things on our sleeve. So the moon being my internal source of art, like, let's say, just kind of my emotional landscape, like my inner compass, my inner world, how I process emotions, how I feel about myself, what it takes for me to emotionally process things. That living in the first house means essentially that I am processing all of my very deep, heavy, often dark, scorpionic feelings through wearing them on my sleeve, through doing it out loud. And I noticed back, I can see that through line when I was songwriting a lot. I've written a handful this year, but I just haven't, I guess, reached in that particular direction right now. But I know for me, that's why songwriting always felt like a form of therapy, or like a journal that I just kind of was putting some structure to, like poetry with music, but more so in, again, a private journal way that initially I never thought I was going to share with anyone. So yeah, I think that it's nice to see, I guess, that even before, again, I ever knew that there was an astrological reason for why I felt the need to like talk about these very vulnerable things through my creativity. I think probably also because I struggle to talk about them just in the normal, natural flow of human conversation. But we're working on it. And the creative, I guess, kind of, I don't want to call it a crutch, but it kind of feels like the way I'm relating to it right now feels like maybe it has been a bit of a crutch. It's nice to have space and a little bit of breathing room from the actual like intensity of the emotion, and let it do its thing inside of me, and then get myself over the hurdle of fully releasing it and like integrating any lessons by just writing about it, speaking about it, singing about it, like just get it out of me by, I guess, vulnerably putting it on the table. So, in honor of that, I just had, I think, a couple, like there was just a domino effect in the last 2 days that kind of led to a moment that I can't describe it other than I literally felt like my brain had split, and I, like emotionally couldn't get past the automatic loop, like the automatic way that I would have always handled this situation, the way that was just kind of like our family norm, because this moment was with my sister. And then simultaneously, it's like I have the self-awareness, consciousness layer like looming over from a bird's eye view, telling me, you know, okay, like all at every little step, well, you know, you could say this, you could do this, you could say this, you could have not done that in the beginning, and that wouldn't have put you in this position, you wouldn't be feeling this way, like you could do this, like just really seeing that true like split between what can exist or live in our conscious awareness, and then like the schism or like the block of what doesn't get plugged in fully, you know, emotionally. So I'm not saying that any of that is bad or wrong or not human, because I've realized that that is very much a human thing, and it's nice. Like maybe that's it. It's really nice when we cultivate the self-awareness, and it is a great satisfying feeling to know that I am self-aware enough in moments to say, hey, I can learn from my mistakes, I can do things differently next time, I can both handle myself maybe in better ways, but I can also just, yeah, again, meet my own needs or communicate to prevent certain situations from escalating. That's all super valuable, super helpful, you know, it's good. It's good. And yet there's just also something very human, I guess it's just the best word, very human about just surrendering to the emotion. And I think that for me, I've never been good at that. And usually the only time that I do, it's like the emotion is so overwhelming that it's just like a tidal wave of fire, i.e., I guess, a Scorpio moon in the first house of Aries, i.e., dark, think dark, deep sea water, turbocharged by like an Aries engine. But yeah, like that dark tidal wave that like sweeps me away, and then in those situations, I can't hide my emotions or my feelings. Otherwise, I have had a secret skill in this life of kind of, you know, just going like dark, just essentially disconnecting, disassociating, numbing. Yeah, really seeing the tendency to intellectualize in those moments and to stay rooted in the mind and not just physically be with the experience. And I think that seems to be like the hardest thing maybe for all of us as humans, to stay rooted somatically in the body and physically feel the feeling, not impulsively or reactively act on that feeling, like let it exist and be in my body, and not like turn into a, you know, again, a childish regression, ideally, though again, giving myself grace. I am a human and it's bound to happen, literally is for every single one of us, and that's okay. But I'm still gonna have my ideals, okay? I still have my ideals of what I would like to, I suppose, grow into or aspire to reach one day, even if I am 95 years old when I reach it. That's okay. But I guess it feels like, yeah, it's just, it's a weird feeling for me, and I don't know if you feel the same, but yeah, like to identify as an analytical person who overthinks and tends to over intellectualize their emotions, that then when you are in the heat of the emotion, I guess essentially at creating enough of the somatic awareness and maybe the safety. Like maybe that's truly just like what's missing in that moment is just deeper grounding. Because I think if I felt safe enough to really stay present with it, then there wouldn't be a need to kind of reach out energetically or emotionally or verbally. Like there just wouldn't be maybe as much of a lashing feeling coming through. And simultaneously then maybe they're like that overlay of the bird's eye view, the conscious awareness piece, like wouldn't feel so much like a critical judge in my mind. Thankfully I can still nowadays like sense that beyond the critical judging bird's eye view, there was further yet still back or out or in the like ever-present loving, you know, God source energy that's like I do feel and I do know is there. And that was really nice to experience. But yeah, it is really crazy how as soon as you're in like the heat of any kind of negative emotion, it's just like that love feels so far away. And the noise of the mind and of the ego and of the pain just gets so loud, and it like creates maybe what was like a tiny veil between you and the light or the love just becomes like whoom, just like this big dark black fog, like this very heavy thick thing that you can't really see through. So yeah, I think one of the nice elements of going through this during a Leo new moon, which means the sun and the moon are both in Leo, adding some, you know, double trouble there, is that Leo really, like, it really knows how to be human. Leo is so good at just being so warm and so open and so expressive. Leo is the epitome of like childlike joy and playfulness and just like self-audacity and like self-ownership and taking up space, standing in the spotlight. Like Leo is bold, not just in a dominant or power-hungry kind of way. It's just, like it's, I mean, there's a reason why the lion is the mascot or, you know, symbol for Leo. Like there's just an innate presence there that comes from just being authentically full in yourself. Messiness and imperfections included. And that being said, the shadow side of Leo can obviously show up. And I think the cool thing for me, and if any of you track like the cycles of what season we're in with the sun, what season we're in with the moon, though the moon changes every 2.5 days, but the more we attune to those and really see how these like energetic signatures beaming out, you know, from the great beyond toward us, in theory, there's just, I think they hit us at different moments in different ways. There's a element of, if we're, I think, you know, in a relatively high place, then maybe it will just automatically kind of hit us at like a higher octave. And then other times, I think sometimes we're in a relatively high, good feeling place and it hits us at the lower octaves to humble us and show us what needs to still be felt and acknowledged and processed and released. And yeah, again, vice versa. We could be at a low point and it could hit us and be the thing that transforms or shifts the energy and lifts us into a brighter state. So, you know, it lands wherever it needs to. But I feel like attuning to what those qualities are and kind of knowing what the higher aspects and like the more shadowy, difficult aspects are of each sign is then cool to kind of look back on and reflect in hindsight of, yeah, okay, where did those qualities get triggered or activated in me? Where did I feel like they were present in my experience of other people? Not necessarily that other people were like embodying those qualities, they could have been, but it also could just be our projections about other people, and again, kind of what we are perceiving in them at that moment in time, given whatever's in the sky. So yeah, I think it's just been nice for me to get through this little, just rough, bad day stretch, which is normal, but still innately embrace the fact that I am a hyper analytical person and I love astrology and using it as a framework to help process or integrate lessons, move through things, shift energy, or like move upward somehow, even if it's by 1 inch in my own evolution. It's really cool. And thinking how I'm only 30, and if I still get to be hanging around on this planet for another like 40 plus years, then I can only imagine, like I can only imagine the cool, wonderful, and at times I'm sure very painful things I will get to experience and learn and grow from. And yeah, I don't know, it was cool the other night when I was digging deeper into the transits study with astrology. I was going back through some of my key Pluto transits because I have a massive stellium in Capricorn and Aquarius, and Pluto's been transiting those for like a good many years in my life, and still a few more years to go. So Pluto transit's already very heavy. Pluto is the planet of like transformation, the underworld, death and rebirth, kind of just, get into the dark shadows and unearthing what needs to be unearthed, and the reckoning that needs to happen. So it was cool though, seeing how it synced up literally almost to an exact T with 2 of the major, I'd say, just pivotal periods of my life in the last several years. And just watching that kind of arc and evolution happen. And then I got the tricky little thought that said, "Ooh, I could forward cast. I really could. I could look into like my future." And I stopped myself. I didn't, like, a little bit with the next couple years, and I don't think there's anything, again, right or wrong with it. I guess my personal stance or place at this moment in time with astrology is that where transits are concerned, I think I'm only gonna look forward in short distances. I think maybe just having like a very distant view of some of like the overarching themes could be interesting, as far as knowing like, oh, hey, this, like you have your first Saturn return kind of your late 20s into 30. You have a second one in your early 50s, I believe it is. So things like that. I saw, okay, Pluto's going to hit my, Venus, I think, when I'm around 47, and my Saturn when I'm around 60. But I don't need to dig into it too much beyond that. It's just kind of a surface level noted. Beyond that, we're just letting it lie. So I think it can be helpful in the short term as far as what I have agency over, what I can actually contribute to, or maybe be aware of, prepare for, just mentally prepare for. And then, yeah, I think there's obviously a tricky slope of not wanting to get in the weeds of the future. And even with the past, like, you know, again, it was cool to essentially validate my understanding of the transits, but I don't feel a need to go back and comb through every single one in my past. Yeah, I think, again, it's cool seeing how something like especially the area within astrology of predictive astrology, which is working with transits, and I believe progressions fall under that as well. It's almost like it's having an inverse effect than I would have expected, and it's causing me to enjoy the present more, be more fully in the present, like aware of the present, aware of the importance of the present moment. Yeah, I don't know. It's been a very fun and interesting journey, and life is just lifing, and we keep creating and growing along the way. And I suppose if I'm leaving this off with a message, it would just be that when we fall down and have a hard day, I guess no matter how much work we do, sometimes it's just gonna feel hard, and we're just human. And I want to get better at actually giving myself grace for that. And maybe one day I will actually be at that place. Here's to hoping. But I hope you do. I hope you give yourself grace. I fully can stand behind the fact that I know you deserve all the grace, and go easy on yourself, and don't dip into shame, because we literally just, it's such a heavy, dead weight emotion, and we don't need it. So I'm gonna try to just flip that around and take some of my own advice and medicine there. But yeah, I'm also getting tired, so we're gonna leave it there. But I hope that you had a great eclipse, and if you're watching this 5 years from now, then I hope you had a great eclipse whether you knew it or not. All right, bye.